There I am.
Alec,
Hey Matt. Hey Matt.
hey man, so good to see you.
So good to see you too. So stoked to
Thank,
be here with you and the people watching live and anyone listening after the fact. But thanks for having
yeah,
me.
thanks for joining us. So tell us, what is worship ministry training?
So Worship Ministry Training is a website and podcast, monthly podcast that I started 8 years ago. It has grown into, hopefully a very helpful, practical tool for worship leaders who literally just like got zero training. Most of us get thrown into worship ministry like because we're musical. And now we find we have to be a leader, a theologian, a pastor, a shepherd. And we're like, what? I just play guitar and sing. So that's most of our stories, I think. So this is stepping into that gap and saying, here, let me give you the practical and helpful resources you need to actually lead a ministry, because it's not just like you said in the intro, music is like 10% of what we do, right?
Yeah,
There's like 90% of what we do off the stage. And so this is giving you the tools both for on stage, but also all the behind the scenes leadership stuff. That's what we do. And it's a podcast, it's courses, it's ebooks, and it's a lot of it's free. So yeah.
that's awesome, man. What a great tool. So why should worship pastors have administrative systems in place? And that
Yeah.
almost
Well,
seems like kind of an obvious question, but a lot of worship pastors are so focused on the creative side that sometimes we kind of neglect the administrative side. And maybe it's even
yeah.
a side that we're not super strong in. So why is it important to have these systems in place?
Yeah, and I think a lot of worship leaders are like, I don't even want to hear about administrative systems.
Yeah.
Like they're like running in the opposite
Boring.
direction. Yeah, boring. But I just want to set it up like this. Like, if you're listening to this and you lead a ministry, I will strongly say this, and I'm proud to say this. You cannot have a healthy ministry without good administrative systems. Like, I truly believe that unless you build a solid, stable, reliable rhythm of a ministry, it's just going to be chaos. It's going to be hectic. People are going to be frustrated. You're going to be frustrated, And so I think it's really a selfish answer, but like how much do you want to actually enjoy your life? How much do you actually want to enjoy your ministry? How much do you actually want your team members to have an enjoyable experience? I think setting up a strong, stable ministry, like rhythms and patterns and routines and systems and structures, like it's vital for health. Like, you can't have anything healthy if you don't have stability. Like, families can't be healthy if they're not stable. Governments can't be healthy if society is not stable. Like, nothing grows upon instability. And so our job as worship leaders is to do what God did, which, in Genesis, God brought order out of chaos, and he created this stable, beautiful, comfortable environment where humans could thrive and flourish, right? And as leaders, we're supposed to mimic our God, and we're supposed to bring order out of chaos to create a stable environment where people can thrive and flourish and have an enjoyable experience. And if we don't provide that for people, if it's chaotic every week, if like we're last minute texting people to try to get our band together, we haven't picked the set, we're printing chord charts as people are arriving to rehearsal and the stage is a mess and it's not set up, it's not ready for them, people are not going to actually come back, because they're like, why am I going to give my time, my energy to this place that's wasting my time and energy? I'm not going to volunteer. And so then there's this vicious cycle. Now you don't have enough people on your team. So anyway, it all goes back to like my first statement. You can't have a healthy ministry without stability.
Yeah, because then you end up even more stressed out and fatigued. It really causes fatigue on volunteers when things are chaotic. I totally agree
Right.
with you on that. If you don't have the set list together, if you're calling them last minute, it just slowly kind of eats away at a volunteer where they're just like, this is exhausting and I don't think I can even do this.
Right.
Um,
And I would even add, like, if every week all of your energy is going to putting out fires and managing chaos, then you have zero energy and time left to actually build the things that you want to build and do the
yeah,
things that you want to do. Like, if every week it's just managing chaos and putting out fires, you can't songwrite, you can't do discipleship, you can't, because it's so chaotic. So, like, why not just build a system in place that just works, works every week, works every month, and you can focus your energy and attention and time on things that you actually want to do, things that are actually going to move the ministry forward. So that's why I think it matters.
so what kind of systems can a worship leader put into place?
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of different systems and structures. I
Yeah,
think what's helpful is to think of it in terms of rhythms and systems. So rhythms and systems. Rhythms are doing the right things at the right time, and systems are doing those things in the right way. And so we can talk about both of those, but basically rhythms are when you do certain things and systems are how you do certain things. And you can build, like I said, a rhythm and a system for pretty much anything in your ministry. And I'll give you a few like real life examples in a second. But I think the most important question to answer before you build any rhythm or system is, what are you trying to accomplish? Like, what is the outcome that you desire for your ministry? And once you have that outcome in mind, you can work backwards. You can reverse engineer your system and your rhythms to get you towards that outcome. For example, like let's say you really want your worship team this year to become more of a family. Okay, that's the desired outcome. So what do I need to do every single week to actually make that happen? Like what are the tasks that need to go on my calendar to move me towards that desired outcome? So once you have that outcome, then you can build a rhythm or a system for that. And I like to say this, Matt. I like to say if you do the right things at the right time, you'll get the right results, right? And I might
Mm.
even add, if you do the right things at the right time in the right way, you'll get the right results. But some examples, to answer your question now. Sorry for that long, tangent. But like an example would be like scheduling, right? Like when do you schedule? Do you have a set time to schedule your team every month? Like for me, it's like the 26th of every month. I send out the blockout dates on the 26th of the month. And I mean, it could be 25th, 27th, doesn't matter. But around that time window, every month, I do that. And then 3 days later, after everybody blocks out their dates on Planning Center, I build the schedule and I send the requests, right? So having that just pattern, because ministry is a pattern. Like Sunday's coming every week, so why not set up your week so that you do the same things on the same days every week, and it's not like you're reinventing the wheel each time, right? So for me,
Yeah.
Monday mornings I schedule my sets. Monday afternoons I send my set notes to my team for that upcoming Sunday, and it's like a pattern. It's a habit. I don't have to think about when am I going to send my set notes to my. It's just like, no, every Monday. So that's the rhythm side of things. If you want to stop and ask questions, we can stop there, or I can talk
Well,
about the system side too.
I feel like that's such a good point, that rhythms and the tools are very different, because you have to have the rhythm. You have to set aside the time to actually get the specific task done. And I love what you're saying about, you just choose, hey, on Monday, I'm doing my sets. Tuesdays are getting the chord charts together. Wednesdays is rehearsal. You set a rhythm. Now, the tools you use to actually do those things, well, I'm sure we're going to talk about that in a second. There's a lot of tools out there. What would you say? I think the rhythm, though, might actually be the hardest thing for worship pastors to set,
Yeah.
because the tools are awesome. There's so many tools out there that make the actual planning part of it easy, but it's almost the self-discipline part of setting those rhythms that seems to be difficult. Do you have any tips for worship leaders who maybe have a harder time setting those disciplines and those rhythms? How can you
Yeah.
get started doing that?
Well, a couple things come to mind. One, you definitely have to see why it matters. So all the stuff we just talked about, like hopefully that convinces you that like, yeah, gosh, I really got to like stop managing chaos and just build a structure for my routines every week. Because I mean, like I said, Sunday's always coming. It's not like there's any surprises. So why don't you just get on the front end and get ahead? I think one thing that might be helpful, I can share my screen, Matt. I actually have a free ministry calendar for worship leaders. It's a ministry calendar template that you can take and you can literally borrow, steal, tweak, and use for your own ministry. That I have like weekly tasks, and I would like categorize those as like service related tasks, right? And here's what you should do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday. That's my schedule. Obviously, my schedule and my routines and my tasks are going to look slightly different, but worship ministry is the same in most churches. So, this is your weekly schedule. Your monthly tasks, I would categorize them as team maintenance tasks. That would be things like scheduling and taking people out to coffee once a month and sending a heartfelt thank you message to the team, like little things that you want to do every month to do team maintenance. Then you have like quarterly type activities, team building things like mini golfing with your team, musical training workshops, biannual, annual. So I can give access to this. In fact, if anyone listening or watching wants it, they can just go to worshipministrytraining.com/resources. That page is all full of free resources. They can put their email in, and this ministry calendar template will get sent to them. I think like within 3 days. And so if they want it, they can grab that. I also have like an actual calendar view of like what to do, and then the color coding is, I know I'm a geek, right? But I want to be helpful. That's why I make these things easy to understand. So color coding for weekly versus quarterly versus monthly versus, so either of these are available. If you just go to worshipministrytraining.com/resources, they can grab that, and hopefully that'll help them get a good head start on like how they can structure their time, Matt. So does that kind of answer the question?
Totally. Yeah, this is super helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about um, the tools. So what types of systems can be put in place? So we're not talking about rhythms now.
Okay. Yeah. So a system is how you do something, right? So I think, gosh, I mean, well, we can talk about tools, or we can talk about systems, and then we can talk about tools. Because I mean, like you said, it doesn't really matter what tool a worship leader prefers. Like,
Yeah.
what calendar app do they want to use? I don't care. Like, whatever they like. What task management app do they want to use? What project management do they want to share with their other, worship staff or worship volunteers? Asana, Tick Tick.
Yeah.
I mean, who cares? Like, whatever you guys like. The point is not the tool, although we can talk about tools and I can show you guys what I use. But the point is like designing everything to function smooth for you and for your volunteers. But in terms of the systems, I would say you should have a system for how to audition people. Like, what are your A, B, C, D, E, F, G steps when someone comes up to you after service and says, "Hey, I've played on a worship team before. How do I get involved?" If you have to reinvent that process every time for every new person who comes to you, like, you're just doing extra work. Why not dial it in, figure it out, and say, "This is how we audition people," or "This is how we onboard a new team member after they get approved to be part of the team. Like, these are the training resources we have for them. This is what we want them to do. This is what we want them to read. This is what we want them to watch, because we want to set them up for success." Right? All of
Yeah.
this is an act of service that you would do. I mean, you can even have like a system for how you organize your backstage area and like hang your microphone cables so that you don't have to look for the 20-footer when you need it really quickly, right? So, I mean, you could design a system around anything. It's just about doing the work once, doing it well, and then you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time, right?
Yeah, that's so good. So
Mhm.
what are some of the best ways that worship leaders can actually introduce these systems to their teams?
I mean, I saw this question beforehand and I was thinking about it, and it's like, honestly, it's not even really something that the team members have to participate in. It's something that is our responsibility as the shepherd of the team to develop the rhythms and the systems. Like, your team is just the beneficiary of the rhythm and the system that you put in place. You're doing the work, they're reaping the reward, right? And so I don't think there's a lot that your team members really have to do. The only one that comes to my mind is like scheduling. Like, I need to my team members need to cooperate with me in scheduling, right?
Mhm.
And so for me, it's about training, and when you onboard a new team member, and I can share my screen and show you a bit of our onboarding process for our church. I work at Calvary Chapel South Bay in Los Angeles, and we've put together like an onboarding little web thing. And
Yeah.
honestly, I can give all these links to you guys, and you guys can copy them and steal and borrow. I don't care. Like, this is all, And actually, Matt, I don't know when I know this episode is live right now, but I'm not sure when the audio is going to be releasing. But in about a month and a half, I'll be releasing a brand new course on my website called the Copy Me course, where I literally show you every single thing I do to make my ministry work. Every from set building to scheduling to how I chop songs for Ableton to all of that. So that'll be, if they want that, they can go to worshipministrytraining.com, and it'll be up live in like what is it, February? So in the middle of March, it should be live. But
That's awesome.
I can right now I can give access to all of these things to your listeners, to your viewers. If you want, I can share the screen, and I can show you a little bit of our audition process at our church. So this is an example of a system. And Matt, stop me if I'm going in a direction you don't want me to go down.
No, this is
But
great.
Okay. So basically, when somebody comes up to me after service and says, "Hey, I wanna play on your team," I say, "Great. here's my email address, please email me. That's the first step in my process, because I want to see if they have the initiative and if they're responsible enough to actually follow through. So I put the ball in their court. Like, okay, like if this person can't email me, how can I expect them to prepare their guitar parts, right?
Yeah.
so
Right.
so first they email me, then I would send them this link, and I'm going to give your viewers and listeners access to this. And it just explains, hey, we're looking for people who are committed to this local fellowship, who live a lifestyle that honors Christ, and who are skilled in their craft of musicianship. And there's a full expectations document that we want them to read right here. Your viewers and listeners can have this document as well. And then it says basically not everybody's guaranteed to get a spot on the team. We want to partner with you to help you find the best spot. But then there's like a 4-step process for the singers. We define clearly, we only audition singers who can sing harmony. So we won't even audition you if you can't sing harmony. Like, we're not trying to be mean. It's just something that is needed at our church. And so they click this folder. There's some MP3s and some charts in there. They film themselves singing the harmonies to those songs, and they upload them to this Dropbox file here. And then I follow up with feedback. That's the first thing I do, is I give feedback. I don't even say yes or no. I just say, hey, here's what I saw that was good. Here's a few areas that I want you to work on. And the reason I do the feedback immediately is because I want to initiate that coaching relationship with them right from the outset. And so, yeah, and then we move from there into the audition, like in-person audition, if they have the ability to, if I think their video is close enough to where they need to be. So that is our system for auditioning. Now, I can't remember what your exact question was, Matt. So please.
No, this is great. Keep walking through it.
Okay. So if they get into the team, or on the team, you really want to begin onboarding them. And onboarding means helping them understand your culture, your values, your vision for your team, and just kind of the expectations of what it means to be on the team. And so I have, I'm not going to open the webpage here, but there are web pages that explain our values. And I also give them these sheets in person as well. And then once they we talk through that, we begin the training process. So the training process, I send them some links. These are just little, again, your listeners and viewers can have access to all of this, and they can copy the text or change it for their own context, whatever they want. And it just explains what we're looking for in an electric guitar player. Like, we're not looking for a shredder. We're looking for someone with a modern contemporary style that uses influences like U2 and Coldplay for inspiration. And it goes into more detail there. And then I can't show you, well, here it says watch these following online guitar courses. These are free online guitar courses that I found that are good. And I'm like, watch this. And then I have some examples of videos, YouTube videos of great guitar tutorials for modern worship songs. So I have one for guitar, for bass. But you want to give them the tools. First of all, you want to set the expectation for what you're looking for so they know how to succeed. The key to being a great leader is to provide clarity. And so your job is to give clarity for what you're looking for in an electric guitar player, in a bass player, in a singer. And that's the online training portion. I'm just sharing what our process is, because this is a system that we've built to get a good result. And then we begin scheduling them for in-person training. And for that, they just come to Planning Center. We can talk about Planning Center because that's a huge part of our life, right? But we schedule them as a training position in Planning Center, and then they show up and they shadow whatever position that they're supposed to be playing. So they'll watch the bass player they'll wear in-ear monitors, they'll hear what we're hearing, they'll hang out with the team, they'll spend time with us. Yeah, so that's that. And I don't need to keep sharing my screen anymore, but yeah.
No, that's great. So
any thoughts?
Let me ask you this. Let's just say you set up a system, maybe it's how you hang your cords in the back room, or where you put your in-ear monitors when you're done with your in-ear monitor pack, or maybe it's, how rehearsal flows or how sound check flows. Like, you're setting up these systems. What do you do if there is resistance to the systems? So if there's somebody on your team that just will not abide by your system, like maybe they won't. How about this one? You're using a planning tool like Planning Center, and this person just refuses to accept invites in Planning Center. They just want to text you or something else, or I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, this is the great, beautiful part of being a pastor in ministry, is you have to deal with difficult people, right? I mean, this is life. So, I mean, Matt, how would you handle that if you had a team member who refused to show up prepared, or what would you do?
I would probably take them out to coffee and vision cast for them about why we do what we do, why we have
Right.
the system in place, that it's there to help them, it's there to help everybody. And and I would just tell them actually very straightly that, like, you know, it would really help us if you would um, you know, click accept in the email when we send it to you, or decline.
Right.
But just
Right.
use the email that we send you, because that would really help, so that we can really focus on other parts of ministry instead of having to hunt you down.
Right. Yeah, Matt, you're so right on. It's about that relational. It's not like you're going to sledge them with a sledgehammer and like, you're off the team. Like, that is not the way Jesus operates, right? He's full of
Yeah.
grace and truth. He's long suffering. And so we want to be long suffering, but we also have to be full of grace and truth. And the truth is, if you want to be part of this team, the reason this team operates so well is because people are doing what needs to be done for the good of the team. And so it's just about having those conversations. But here's what I always tell people: you can't have those conversations down the line if you didn't set the expectation up front. So that's why the onboarding process is so important. Here's what we expect from our team. Here's what it means to be part of the team. So anybody who joins our team, I walk through all of this with them and say, you know, at the end of the month, I'm going to be scheduling out or sending out blockout dates. I need you guys to block out dates. And here's the truth, Matt, you know this: volunteers are volunteers. And so sometimes they're just wiggly and they don't conform. And that's why, as a leader, our job is to constantly reiterate the same thing over and over and over. I can tell you every month I say the same thing. Please block out dates for our schedule. We're going to schedule in 3 days. Really, really helps us if you block out your dates. Please block out your dates. And then when I send the schedule, please accept or decline within 3 days. First of all, they shouldn't even be declining, because hopefully they followed the instruction to block out dates and I didn't schedule them. This is all
Yeah.
in Planning Center, by the way, if people are wondering, like, what does blockout dates mean? But Planning Center is a huge part of my workflow, and I'm sure many other worship leaders.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm constantly asking them, like, please accept or decline within 3 days so we can move forward with this, scheduling. So it's a pain, but welcome to leadership, right? I mean, gosh, how many times does God need to tell us the same thing over and over and over before we like start to
Yeah. That's right.
slowly, slightly conform,
And it's the pastoral element of being a worship pastor. So, um, you know, this has been a rough couple years, I feel like, for churches and worship leaders and worship team members, you know, not being able to be in church with COVID, and, you know, people are feeling, I think, more isolated than ever. And I'm curious, is there any sort of structure or system that you've seen put into place that helps encourage health and stability to your worship team? And maybe it's even just the pastoral part that we're talking about. Like, is there a system in place where maybe it's not just all about the music, but it's also about the people?
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Well, like in that first screen share with the rhythm list, there are very relational tasks, if you want to call them tasks, in that list of what you should probably be doing every month to continue to connect with your team. So like today at 3:45, I'm taking a guy out to coffee. I try to do it like once a month. It doesn't always happen. But with like shepherding the larger team, there are spiritual practices that you can do to create stronger disciples of Jesus. And sorry to keep plugging stuff, but like there's that
No, it's good.
all these free resources. I literally have one of the emails that you'll get is 5 free ideas for discipling your team, and I can just share what they are right now. But like one of them is a prayer partner program. So like you can just literally every month pair up your like 2 guys and 2 girls, and then you pair up your whole team 2 by 2, just like going into the ark. Just kidding. And 2 by 2, you pair them up, guy, girl, and you say, hey, your job, guys, is to pray for each other every day and call each other once a week. And you do that for 2 months. They get to know each other. They get to pray for each other. And that weekly phone call checkup. Now, not everybody on your team is going to do it, but some of them will. And the overall team will be stronger for it. And then after
Yeah.
2 months, you switch partners and you do it again. And so that's a little simple system that you can put in place. Another one would be, hey guys, this month we're gonna do this Bible reading plan on the Bible app together, and we're gonna read it every day, and then on the 7th day we'll do a group text about what stuck out to
Yeah.
us, right? So that's something you can do. Or even in between services, like what we try to do is we try to discuss the pastor's sermon with our team every week. So those are just a
Mm.
few ideas for just little rhythms that you can put in place that are going to help your team spiritually develop. But I don't know,
Yeah.
Matt, you would agree, everything in life is a habit. Like I choose to try to exercise 5 days a week, right? I choose to try to read my Bible every day. I choose to try to read a book that's going to help me grow every day. It's like you just build these systems into your life and you get healthy. The same thing is true for your ministry, right?
Yeah. I completely agree. There's a lot of really great tools on this site, man. Worship ministry training. Thanks for joining us. Is there anywhere else you want to direct people to find you, to sign up?
I'm not on any social really personally, but
Yep.
worship ministry training is everywhere. Although I'm not really even that big on social. The website is the best worshipministrytraining.com. There's free resources. If they want to get signed up for all those emails that I was talking about, worshipministrytraining.com/resources. Those are all
Yeah.
free. The podcast obviously is free. I also have free courses there that they can take for free without even having to put their email in.
Yeah.
And then I do have paid courses for set building, team building, stage leadership, like increasing congregational engagement, and
Yeah.
a couple others. But the new one that I'm most excited about is that Copy Me course, because it's literally like I'm showing you how I use Planning Center, how I set up tags in Planning Center. Do you want to talk about Planning Center at all? Because that is that's just such a huge part of the
Yeah, we
tools
could
that
talk
we
about Planning
use.
Center. We also have a question that actually came in that I'd love to ask as
Yeah,
well.
go for it.
Let's talk about that first, and then we'll talk about planning. But we have a question from Bob on
Hmm.
Facebook, and he says, "What thoughts do you have on an audition process that can't necessarily afford to be so choosy, and picky,
Right.
but can still protect the team from a member who's not yet ready?
Right.
How do you
That's
find
such a
that balance?"
Yeah, Bob, because a lot of us don't have enough team members, and maybe we're in a church where the excellence level is not like so high, and we just need people with. First of all, look, you're looking for a willing heart who loves the Lord, right? And Matt and I had a conversation yesterday. Well, that'll be on my podcast. Matt will be on my podcast soon, and he just said it's all about the people. It's all about the people. So people over product every day, right? But yet at the same time, they have to be equipped and skilled for the task. Like I was even reading in Exodus where Moses has got the instructions for the tabernacle, and God says, find these two guys who are skilled in what they do and are filled with the Holy Spirit. So you want to find the same within your team. So definitely don't compromise on the spiritual standard. You will kick yourself for that. But also don't compromise too much on the musical standard, because if you add someone to the team that's not ready and that's going to drag down the overall, you are going to kick yourself, because now you have to probably eventually take that person off the team. Now, here's how I would advise you though. Start with where you're at. Don't put anyone on the team who's going to take the team down, because I recently had a team scheduled on a Thursday night service at our church that was kind of all of our less, like, I don't know how to say it nicely, but not our best musicians. And unfortunately, the way we scheduled that team was we did it wrong, and we put a lot of the not great musicians on that team. And what was the outcome of that? It's every team is just the sum of its parts. So if you put a bunch of not great players on a team, that team's sum is going to be bad, right? And that was what our Thursday was. It was not our best, musically best service. It was still a good time of worship, and they're still wonderful people. But so you don't want to like lower the overall quality of your team by adding people who are less than what you already have. Now, if somebody is close and you can spend time training them and developing them and helping them grow, and like inviting them into your office every week and spending time helping them develop, go for that. Like if here's where the rest of your team is, and this person is here, and you can spend 5, 7, 8, 9 weeks with them and get them here, do it, because that's kingdom advancing. But if they're just like not really anywhere close, don't add them. You will regret it. It's better to have a small team that plays well together than a big team that's a hot mess, right? And so I would say definitely don't go too low on your standards, but find ways to develop people to get up to the standard. And I always say this: don't rush to put someone on the team if they're not ready, but do spend lots of time off stage with them, getting them ready. And then once they're ready, you add them and you do that again with the next person and the next person and the next person. And pretty soon, everybody who joins your team is on that level. And I'll go one step further and say eventually, as you continue to add better and better people, the people who are not as good will start to fall behind, and you'll need to start to develop them, or you'll have to maybe have hard conversations with them, or they'll naturally see that they're just not able. The Lord will deal with all that, and He'll help you when that time comes. But those are just some thoughts that come to mind, Matt.
Those are great answers. There's a lot of great tools out there for helping your team grow in their craft too. Online tools like Worship Online, Worship
Mm-hmm.
Artistry, that you could send people, training videos on how to get better at their guitar or drums. And
Mm-hmm.
but it is a interesting balance, because you might have the same story. I know for me, I would not be doing what I'm doing now, and I wouldn't be leading worship if someone didn't believe in me when I was 13 years old and a horrible guitar player and a horrible singer.
Right.
And someone, though, believed in me. Someone saw something in me. Maybe it was a willingness to learn and to grow, or I don't know, but they invited me into their process and their team,
Right.
and it changed my life. And if that person would have had too high of standards, they could have excluded me, and that could have changed my past 20 years.
Yes. I
So,
just I just texted the guy who changed my life because it was his birthday yesterday. And I said, "Phil, you changed my life. The Lord used you to change my life and put me on and change my future." Because he invited me into the youth band when I was 13, same as you.
yeah,
And I am who I am today, and I'm doing what I'm doing today because of Phil Eisenhower doing that. So, what I would tell, I think his name was Bobby who asked the question. The other thing to understand is you should develop other areas of ministry that are musical, but that are safe places for people to develop. So you should create a youth band, you should create a men's ministry team, or like people don't have to develop on the main platform. You should create other venues for people to develop and get the skills. So the guy that I'm going to go have coffee with today, bass player, the first thing I'm going to do is put him into the men's ministry and let him get used to our team, our style. And that's a smaller context, less musical excellence necessary. Watch how he does there, and then move him up to the main sanctuary. That's my plan with this guy. So I would encourage everybody to figure out other venues and develop other venues. For example, we're starting a
yeah.
choir here to teach people how to sing harmony, because we have a lot of singers, but they can't sing harmony. But that doesn't do us any good for our main platform. So okay, we're going to start a choir, and it's going to be run by mostly volunteers. So just think creatively about where you can develop people.
I think it's an interesting topic that I actually would like to just spit on for a little bit, if you're
Yeah, let's
cool
go
with
for
it.
it. Yeah.
Uh, because I do think that if I'm looking back, when I was on staff at a church, I definitely had like high standards. I was always looking for like good musical quality. Looking back on it now, I'm like, because I'm not on staff at a church anymore. Looking at it from like almost an outsider in a way, like outside church staffing, I'm like, was I treating that too much like an organization? Like when you're hiring someone for a team, let's just say I'm looking for a web developer. I want them to be the best web developer in the world. Otherwise, they're not getting the job, and I'm going to decline any applications that are for people who aren't good at that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So if I'm declining people on a worship team who just are wanting to serve, and maybe they're not the best bass player, but they have a bass that
mm-hmm.
their grandpa gave them, and they took some lessons, and they just are really passionate about it. Was it wrong of me to decline them? Because I'm almost like treating it like like a business, when isn't the church supposed to be about community? Isn't worship, what if we've actually made worship more about the music than we have about the people? And I feel like I'm becoming more and more lenient on, if someone wants in and they're a believer, and they I mean, I don't even know, maybe even if they're not a believer, I'm not sure what you think about that. But like, if they're willing and they want to be there, they want to be a part of the community, isn't it, as the church, as Christians, our responsibility to be like, yes, like, come, like, join us, join the group. Like, we're not exclusive. We're not like this club that you can't join. Like, yes, be here. And yeah, you might be horrible at bass, but we're going to, I don't know, not have it cranked in the house, or like not care really. Maybe what if we're taking it way too seriously? What if we're taking ourselves too seriously, Alex, and making the music so important that we're forgetting the important thing, which is the people, and getting them involved in community, in a Christian community. What do you think about that?
I'm smiling because I think I agree with you completely that the American church has become. I want to be careful because the church is the bride of Christ, so I don't want to use too crass
Right.
language. But in some ways, it has become a monster of a pragmatic, um, production oriented, you know, consumeristic situation where the church has forgotten that we're just gathering in a room together and worshiping. No, we're all aiming at becoming a bigger church and a more, excellent church. And there's nothing wrong with that. I was actually looking at the materials that Moses chose to build the tabernacle with, or that God told him to build the tabernacle with. It's all expensive stuff. So God's like, hey, when you build my house, I want it to be high quality. So I saw that yesterday and I thought about that. But
Yeah.
but I agree. Like, I think we've created this like show almost, and
Yeah.
we need
Are we
people who can
taking
execute
ourselves
the show.
Yeah, I just wonder if we're taking ourselves too seriously. Like, do I think I'm Bono with you too? That like you're not good enough bass player to play with me.
Right.
And it's like I just really wonder if worship leaders, like, we've started to like kind of take it way too serious.
Mhm.
It's like,
I
listen, you're
think,
not Coldplay. You're not a Chris Martin or something.
yeah, I think there's a
This is
lot
the
to
church.
that, Matt. I think the I do though also think that, one, we want people to be in their sweet spot, right? Like, you
Yeah.
want someone serving where their gifting is, and two, like, you wouldn't want you wouldn't want a preacher every week who doesn't have the gift of preaching, because that's going to be bad for the community, right? So you also wouldn't want a worship leader who literally can't hold a tune, because that would be hard to sing along with, and it would kind of be bad for the community.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I agree with you completely, and yet I also like see the other side. So I don't really, I mean, we could spend a whole other podcast episode talking about this, and I would
I
actually enjoy
know.
it.
That is a whole other topic, because you just nailed a really good point in that the loving thing to do also as a pastor is to make sure that someone is in their lane or in a role that they're going to thrive, that they're not going to be frustrated, challenged, not confident. Like, you want them to be like in a role that they're going to thrive. And so I think there is a level of discernment then as worship pastors to know, like, okay, this person would be really good here. Um, and maybe that is the key of, like, if someone is coming and expressing interest of being a part of the community, getting involved, maybe that then falls on our responsibility then to find a place for them. Maybe it's
Mhm.
not on stage, maybe it's helping running your monitors or running the lyrics, or maybe it's serving, on bass guitar in the youth room on a Wednesday night.
Mhm.
But
That's
maybe we just
exactly
need to get
right.
people involved.
Yeah. I did a podcast a long time ago, probably 7 years ago, about, like, it was a roundtable with a bunch of different worship leaders about how they do auditions. And something stuck out to me so much from that episode that I still think about it today. And it's that, we're like, when worship leaders, we never want to tell people, we should never tell people no. We should always say yes and help them find where to serve. So once, it's not like they're trying to jump over this certain height of a hurdle, like, you have to jump over this to be part of our community. No, no, you are welcome to be part of our community, and we want to partner with you to find out where God wants to use you. And so the answer is always yes, and let's see where that is. And they have to
Yeah,
be open to that, because it might not be, the diva up front with the microphone, which is what their vision of their service is. It might not, that might not
right.
be their best place to serve, and it might not be best for the community either. So it's a lose-lose by putting someone in the
Yeah.
wrong position. Yeah.
It's complex. Being a worship pastor is definitely some complex situations, because it's not totally just like a business where you can just be like, yeah, no, you're fired, you're out. Like, you, it's different than that, and
It's the
it
family.
should be different than that.
Mhm.
So, Bob, that was a really good question that really sent us off on a little tangent there, but I think we talked about some interesting things. And we're running out of time here, but I want everybody to go check out worshipministrytraining.com. Worshipministrytraining.com. Go get these free resources. I'm actually going to go check it out right after this conversation, because sounds like you have tons of free guides on there, which is such a cool opportunity and tool. So
Can I
thanks for
say, can
that.
I add this? Yeah, can I add this to that? Anybody who's in a developing country, anybody who is in Africa or Asia or Central America and who does not have, or Middle East, and does not have the resources to have your church purchase courses, if you're interested in them, if you email me, alex@worshipministrytraining.com, tell me where you serve, and if it's in a third world country, I will give you the full course bundle for free. I will always do that until Jesus comes back. And so, yeah, I just like you, Matt, and your
That's
team,
awesome.
I want to resource the local church and the global church. And so, yeah, if your church is a Western church and you guys got money and you can spend $99 to get 7 courses, like, it's not expensive, and it's like hours
Yeah,
and hours of training. So, if your church can afford it and your pastor is down, like, go for it. But if you're in a developing country, email me, alex@worshipministrytraining. I will give you them for free.
that's awesome, man. Alex, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Thanks, Matt. It's been awesome. 2 in a row.
We'll
We
talk to
got
you
to hang
soon.
out twice. Yeah.
I know, man. It's good. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Bye.